Hello, today I wanted to talk about The Warded Man, or rather the first book in the Demon Cycle series, which is quite possibly one of my favorite series of all time. The author is not the fastest writer in the world. This book came out in 2008 or 2007, I think, and the fifth and final book in the series came out in 2017. From there, there's been a 4 year time gap between that book and the new series, which is in the same world, but the next generation is the main cast. Um, so he's not the fastest author out there, but his ideas and the world he's created are top notch. So I guess let's get into the first in the series, The Warded Man, or for Brits, the Painted Man. This book is the introduction to the world. It's a pretty interesting hard magic system that you don't see too much of. It's somewhat reminiscent of Sanderson's The Arithmetist, and that you're creating wards on the ground. In this case, you're making symbols in the shape of circles mostly that interconnect and do things based on the symbols or wards that are used. And the wards take their magic power from the attacker. The big bad of this series are demons. They're creatures that come out of the center of the earth at night to attack. I'm being a little vague there just to avoid some spoilers, but in effect, these demons are magic entities, and wards siphon power off of them when they try to cross the threshold of the wards and use that magic power to rebuff them. The magic system is just, it's new, it's interesting, and it's pretty fun. From there, we get to listen to her story. The first book, you can kind of see that this is a new author, not in the quality of the story or the editing work, which I think are top notch, but in the way he tells it sometimes, it can feel a little disjointed. It doesn't stop it from this book being pretty high up on my favorites of the series as a whole, but it can feel a little odd because the purpose of this book is to really introduce you to three of many characters that you get to learn about and hear their stories throughout the entire series. And the most important, of course, is the Warded Man himself, Arlen Bales. And the story can start feeling a little disjointed because you start with Arlen, I believe, when he's around 12. And this is just to set the character, to give you an idea of the world, which I'm not gonna, I don't have any problem with. But then you jump a few years ahead to his apprenticeship where he's learning how to ward. And you don't spend a lot of time here, but he's a teenager, and that time period ends around when he's 18. And then you jump ahead again to when he's in his early to mid 20s. It's kind of unclear what his actual age is here, but it's early to mid 20s. And you spend very little time here. When you get to a new time jump of 4 years, you actually know the specific time jump here. So he's in his mid to late 20s, presumably. And that's where what I think of as the present takes place. Everything before that is really kind of a just very large prologue, just giving you the setup, telling you a lot. And Peter Brett does this in the next two books as well. The first several chapters are better read as a prologue or a flashback because they're not in what I'm considering the present time, and they're giving important backstory to various important characters. And if you're going to do a flashback, that's my preferred method. Just give it to me all at once. I won't forget, I promise. The Broken Empire series comes to mind, and it gets it out of the way. But going from there, like I said, this book's real goal, I felt, was to introduce the first three important characters. And that's another thing that I really like how Peter Brett handled introducing characters, because there are so many important characters that you have to know the name of, because it's an the overarching story is complicated. It's in multiple locations across multiple nations, and you need a real good feel for these characters. And if Peter threw all these characters at us as these are important, immediately it would get overwhelming, because you meet a lot of who I would consider important by the end characters in the first book, but they're more portrayed as secondary characters. They're important. They show the development of the main three, but we're not here for them. We're here to see how they impact the main three. In subsequent series or subsequent titles, you see how you get more of them. They get fleshed out, become actual, real main characters, and you see how their lives work. Which, like I said, I really like how he handled that. And as the series goes on, you'll see how Peter Brett develops as an author. He gets much better. His time jumps are less written like time jumps and more written like prologues or flashbacks. And they're almost always positioned, or always, I need to double check, positioned at the front of the book. It's the first thing you get, and then we're done. And like I said, the subsequent books feel a lot better in terms of how that was handled. But this is, if not my favorite, one of my favorite of the 5 books. It introduces us to this fantastic new world that's very unique from things I'd seen before. Of course, it has some elements of the Arithmetist in it. It also feels like the Nyx's Abersenn series, with the focus on constraining magic with symbols, and the symbols control what the magic is doing. I don't know if those were inspirations to him. Those are just books and series that I'm reminded of when I read this series. Aside from that, though, it's a great book. It's very in keeping with the modern trend for sci-fi to have hard magic systems, have a lot of character focus, so that we get we understand the drive of the characters, and it's painted in a way that the characters aren't black or white. Now, some characters are worse than others, but all the characters are painted in shades of gray by the end. In the end, all the characters are fleshed out 3D characters that feel realistic, because even the bad guys, even the ones that are on the wrong side of a war, you feel for, you want them to stop being bad and play nice with others, because their characters are so brilliantly drawn. So if that's your thing, you should probably read this book. I know this thoughts video is coming out 15 years after the first came out, something like that. But if you haven't seen this book before, check it out. As always, if you like this video, please leave a like, if not a dislike. And if you've read the Warded Man or the Demon Cycle series and have your own thoughts on it, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Please have a wonderful rest of your day.